Hey everyone, GetterTheGreat here, and it's time for an album review. Today I'm going to be talking about the latest studio album by Blink-182. This album is titled California. Blink-182 is a pop-punk band who saw massive success in the late 90s to early 2000s with their immature brand of humor and also a more accessible approach to the genre, resulting in them cranking out numerous hit songs throughout the years. The band split in 2005, not too long after the release of my personal favorite record by them, 2003's Self-Titled, an album that saw the band trying new things musically, as well as approaching their music with a more mature and kind of darker edge. After years of numerous side projects, the group finally got back together in 2009, eventually releasing their 2011 album Neighborhoods, an album that received a mixed reaction due to Tom's influence over the record. Really had the band sounding more like Angels and Airwaves than Blink-182. I do give this album credit because it saw the band actually expanding their sound into newer territory, but I think that there was just something lacking about this album that a lot of fans did not like. Eventually, Tom became disinterested in playing with the band, and disagreements led to his departure. Now he's been replaced by Alkaline Trio's Matt Skiba. Initially, I was excited about his inclusion in the band. I thought that maybe he would push the band into a new direction that they haven't traveled before. I was excited to hear Blink-182 without being bogged down by Tom's ego and his general disinterest in the band. So, did any of that happen for this record? I would say no. That's not what happened with this album. Blink-182 have returned with an album that sounds like it wants to be fun and energetic and fan-pleasing, but it's held down by several issues that permeate throughout the majority of this album. In some ways, Tom was holding the band back before his departure, but I feel like his musical influence is really missed on this album. The band has resorted back to playing more straightforward pop-punk songs, but without a lot of the charm that made their previous work so special. I feel like a lot of this can be attributed to the production on this album. John Feldman, who has produced material from 5 Seconds of Summer, as well as some of the more recent Fall Out Boy material, had his hands on the production on this album, and it leads to the album sounding very overly glossy and clean. The band sounds like they want to be energetic, but the production is really sucking the soul out of a lot of the songs here. One of the only songs that really escapes this is the opening song, Cynical. I really like the clean intro vocals on this track. This leads into some very impressive drum work by Travis Barker, which gives this song more of a punk feel than Blink has really had in a long time. Matt Skiba's first vocal appearance here also sounds really good. I think that his voice has a ton of conviction in it. Unfortunately, Skiba's not really given a ton of moments on this record to shine. His contributions sound good, but I feel like a lot of the time he's just playing sidekick to Mark, repeating the same melodies, and really just serving as a backup singer on a lot of these tracks. It also doesn't help that there isn't really a ton of contrast between the two vocalists on this album. Sometimes this leads to it being kind of hard to pinpoint when one vocalist stops singing and the other one starts. This could be the fault of the obnoxious vocal layering on this album, sometimes leading both vocalists to sound very lifeless and robotic. I forgot to mention that this might be one of the catchiest Blink-182 albums in their entire discography, but catchy in this instance does not always equal good. This album at times tries shamefully hard to be as catchy as possible, sometimes adding in woes and na-na-nas into songs where they just really don't even fit and they never even add anything to the song. On a lot of tracks here, their inclusion feels totally unnecessary, much like on the track Sober, which might have one of the worst vocal hooks in any Blink-182 song to date. The melody on this song honestly would not sound out of place on the chorus of a Kesha song, and this isn't helped by the very loud and cheap sounding hand claps that make their way onto the chorus here. Annoying hooks also make their way into other tracks on this album, such as the stuttering vocal hook of the song She's Out of Her Mind, or the choppy vocals that make up the chorus of the song No Future. Sometimes the hooks on this album ruin songs that otherwise I would have enjoyed, songs such as Left Alone or Kings of the Weekend. Many of the other tracks are hardly worth mentioning because there's really a lack of variety on this album. There's not a whole lot that makes each of these songs stand out. The band does try to switch it up a few times by implementing a few ballads here and there. Tracks like the acoustic Home is a Lonely Place and the title track attempt to be the more emotional pieces on the album, but these tracks just come off as being sappy and overly sentimental. I feel like the emotions on these tracks just come off as incredibly forced. There's also a few joke songs that are included here as a throwback to some of the humorous songs that used to be on Blink's old albums. Both of these tracks are very similar in nature, being incredibly brief and only having about one line of lyric each. But I find neither of these tracks to be funny at all, with lyrics like, "I want to see some naked dudes, that's why I built this pool." Overall, I just found this to be a below-average album for the band. I applaud Mark and Travis for wanting to keep the band alive after all these years, but this album really suffers from a lack of identity and really lacks in variation. I found the instrumentation on this album to be forgettable and kind of bland, with none of the songs really having a distinct riff to set them apart. The only track that really does is the lead single, Bored to Death, but the guitar riff on this song already sounds like a rehash of one of the band's older hits, Adam's Song, and this exact same guitar riff is duplicated just a few tracks later on the song San Diego. I just find that this lack of inspiration and creativity kind of permeates throughout this entire album. Sadly, I'm feeling a 3 out of 10 on this Blink-182 album. I know I'm probably in the minority for the most part, but this album just really did not do anything for me. So if you disagree, let me know why in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like my videos and subscribe to my channel if you like what you see. I'm Getter the Great. Till next time.